Hold on a moment. A vapor sprayed over human populations to diminish their intelligence. Are we discussing the past or the present? Why has the translation of the word Elohim sparked such controversy? For centuries, why has it consistently been rendered as but God? When Elohim is interpreted in the plural form, what startling truths emerge, hidden in plain sight within the pages of Genesis? Welcome to Histox. Today we take a step beyond history. Translating Elohim in the plural reveals multiple beings, various interventions in our evolutionary journey, and diverse agendas for humanity. The plural and Elohim, or the powerful ones, were integral to the world of Abraham and Sarah, the founders of the Hebrew tradition. When a local chief asked Abraham about his departure, he replied that it was because the Elohim, the plural noun, told him to. These beings played a significant role in the lives of Abraham and Sarah, and they appear later in the narrative. Despite generations of translators rendering an Elohim as God, Abraham understood Elohim as referring to plural beings. The root meaning of the word implies the powerful ones. Some scholars suggest it refers to the powers of God, which explains the plural form. However, this interpretation doesn't align with how pluralization typically functions in Hebrew. For instance, a cherubim can refer to many cherubs, but it doesn't denote various attributes of cherub kind. When translators suggest that it means powers of God, they overlook the fact that these powers often conflict with one another over their agendas regarding humanity. These divine powers engage in warfare against each other, leading to human casualties in the process. This isn't merely about divine power dynamics. We're discussing demographics that arrived on Earth as colonizers, with our ancestors caught in the crossfire of their conflicts. Ancient Norse mythology recounts similar tales of advanced beings clashing over human management. These narratives resonate globally. The ancient Indian Vedas and the Mahabharata describe kings battling with advanced technologies for dominance over Earth. Greek mythology also mentions advanced beings residing nearby, yet remaining inaccessible to humans, who engage in their own conflicts regarding human governance. These narratives of conflict among powerful entities are also present in Genesis. A recurring theme throughout the Hebrew scriptures can be termed the Sky Council, often referred to as the Divine Council or Heavenly Council. However, the behavior of its members is anything but divine or heavenly. They engage in constant conflict over how humanity should evolve, be managed, and protected. These council members aren't avatars of a loving deity. They represent rival extraterrestrial factions vying for control over our planet. In discussing the escape from Eden and the scars of Eden, I propose that the Elohim reference members of this ancient Sky Council, which our ancestors were aware of. In 1 Kings 22, one of the Hebrew prophets managed to gain insight into what was transpiring in that council, and it wasn't a pleasant sight. If we examine the early chapters of Genesis, we encounter stories of various extraterrestrial interventions, incursions, and conflicting agendas. The first agenda presented in Genesis 1 seems benevolent, as it describes the arrival of extraterrestrial visitors who assist in rehabilitating Earth after a cataclysm that has left it in ruins and largely submerged. This theme echoes across ancestral narratives and mythologies worldwide, with fascinating correlations in detail. By Genesis 3, we see two conflicting agendas regarding humanity. One faction advocates upgrading humans to be more like them, while another faction opposes this idea, preferring humans to remain less intelligent. This conflict leads to a subordinate faction executing genetic modifications to enhance human capabilities. These elements resonate with Sumerian tales. When Elohim is translated in the plural, we realize we are reading narratives reminiscent of Enlil, Enki, and other celestial beings from Mesopotamian stories. Genesis 6 presents a narrative found in cultures worldwide, including Africa, the Caribbean, the Philippines, India, and the Nordic and Celtic regions. This story narrates ancient hybridization, with the second wave of arrivals, the Bene Elohim, finding humanity attractive and desiring to blend with them to enhance their own gene pool. This bizarre story, seemingly taken from the blue, suggests that the writer of Genesis 6 assumed readers were familiar with similar tales. Indeed, variations of this account exist globally. The flood described in Genesis 6 is another narrative that recurs across cultures. Responding to hybridization, that disrupts the delicate balance among extraterrestrial demographics on Earth. They debate how many humans should exist, how long they should live, and ultimately, genocide occurs. Genesis 11 depicts another extraterrestrial visitation. Currently, this is presented as a Yahweh story, the sacred name of God given to Moses, but it originates well before his time. Clues suggest we are encountering an Elohim narrative because the plural form remains intact. These beings, horrified by the technologically advanced human race, regress our ancestors to a Stone Age condition, stripping them of their technology and even their ability to communicate. This represents a profound neurological disruption that is truly horrifying. When we consider the current translations, we see the actions attributed to Yahweh are actually those of the Elohim. What were these ancient extraterrestrial beings doing on Earth? What motivations drove their presence, and what agendas led to their conflicts? If we fail to recognize we are discussing a council or federation engaged in debates and warfare, we mistakenly interpret their actions as those of a singular God. This leads to a portrayal of a deity that is conflicted and engages in violent disputes with itself, nearly leading to humanity's destruction. Reflecting on the conflicts over human intelligence, we see one demographic wanting to eliminate humanity while another seeks to preserve it. These are not merely the thoughts of a divine being. They are ancient conflicts remembered by our ancestors, expressed through different images and metaphors, yet evoking the same fundamental memory. When we analyze the arguments these Elohim engage in, we notice they debate the intelligence of humans, their education, and their access to resources like food and water. This is all intricately woven into the narrative. As we reach Genesis 11, discussions arise regarding the level of technology humanity should possess, how long they should live, and how many should inhabit the planet before action is taken. These themes resonate profoundly with the 21st century. Anyone reading these stories might ponder whether they reflect our past or our present. Today, we still grapple with questions about human population. Do we face an overpopulation crisis? What is the most sustainable number of humans for our planet? What actions should we take if we believe there are too many people? We also witness debates about food and water access. In modern times, conflicts arise between industrial-scale farming, with patented foods limiting access, versus traditional, organic farming methods that empower local communities. Access to medicine presents similar conflicts, with industrial pharmaceutical approaches creating barriers to life-saving treatments. The issue of drinking water rights remains a significant concern. Is access to clean water a fundamental human right, or does it belong to corporate interests? This is a pressing struggle today. The question of human intelligence, how intelligent should we be, remains relevant. Recent legislative changes in Australia have shifted the education system towards producing industry-ready individuals, rather than fostering a well-rounded education. The Popol Vuh, a foundational text of Mayan mythology, recounts advanced beings arriving on a flooded Earth, terraforming it, and adapting our ancestors into a functional workforce. Quetzalcoatl, also known as Cucumatz, serves as the chief genetic engineer, creating a being more advanced than ourselves. This leads to the conclusion that these humans are too difficult to manage due to their intelligence, prompting the question, can we make them less intelligent? Ultimately, this culminates in a final experiment where Quetzalcoatl releases a vapor over human populations, damaging their neurological connections and restricting their perception to only the 5 physical senses, stripping away their higher abilities. This story raises an intriguing question. Are we discussing past events or present realities? Today, concerns about what is being sprayed into our atmosphere are prevalent, with discussions surrounding harmful substances found in our soils, oceans, and food supply. In the 1970s, I recall investigative reports revealing that pollutants from vehicles were impairing children's neurological development. Schools situated in heavily trafficked areas found their students becoming more aggressive and less intelligent due to lead exposure from fuel. Thankfully, this research has led to significant changes, such as the adoption of hybrid vehicles using lead-free fuel to prevent further harm to our children. The notion of a vapor that diminishes intelligence is not just an ancient story, it resonates with contemporary issues. In ancient Rome, lead-lined pipes brought water into cities, and research in the 1800s suggested this might have contributed to behavioral issues among Romans. such as reduced intelligence and increased aggression. Even skeptics of this theory must acknowledge that lead levels in Roman water were significantly higher than in surrounding spring waters. Concerns about environmental toxins are as relevant today as they were millennia ago, when our ancestors crafted tales about vapors and Quetzalcoatl's agenda for humanity. But what do these myths really represent? Are they vehicles for ancient memories, or do they convey moral lessons or philosophical ideals? The extraordinary correlations among ancestral narratives from cultures that seemingly had no contact with one another are fascinating. Some people read them literally, as if every detail is historically accurate, while others seek morals within the narratives. However, interpreting the Genesis stories through a moral lens often yields absurd conclusions. Instead, recognizing these stories as carriers of memory, we see they may serve as visual recollections of what our ancestors experienced long ago. Different cultures use varied languages and metaphors to depict similar events, indicating a shared memory. Thus, it's plausible that these stories have been curated not just to recount our past, but also to provide us with a framework for understanding why the world operates as it does today. Are our world mythologies designed to inspire hope, or do they represent a counsel of despair? Do these narratives portray humanity as a noble sovereign species, or as beings engineered to serve an alien presence? I find some reassurance in the concept of a council of multiple presences, as ancient stories suggest that among these diverse agendas, some factions genuinely care about Homo sapiens. Their involvement offers a stabilizing influence. Yet, even those with self-serving motives, like those who aim to hybridize in Genesis 6, highlight the uniqueness and significance of human beings. If we engage with these ancient narratives, we might discover that there is a galactic federation of which we could potentially be a part. If this holds true, and we can find our place within an intergalactic federation, we may begin to view ourselves differently, understanding who we are, our origins, and the immense potential we possess as human beings. Don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to stay with us